Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of the Outer Realm right here on United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. Fully sponsored by amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for probably close to 5 years. So we're just so humbled and happy to have them, and just wouldn't or couldn't do it without them. So thank you, Folgers. Also, big thank you to Justice Snicker, aka Dr. Sick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his music, his time, his voice for the intro you just heard. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, and it is coming into the season. He can be found on any of your favorite streaming platforms, Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, you name it. He's there. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Instagram and Facebook. Also specializes in the horror genre. Does amazing stuff. Amazing. But can do awesome commission pieces as well. So tonight, a few things. I mean, tonight we are actually streaming live on our Rumble channel as well. Doesn't have a chat room, but for those of you who prefer to watch on Rumble, you will be able to find that there. And some of the others that a certain platform doesn't really like to, let's say, have some content on. So you can find a little bit more over there as well. So go check it out. Give us some love, like us up, subscribe, all that stuff, and enjoy. Tonight we welcome back our friend and I say frequent flyer, one of our favorite guests. We just enjoy him so much. And tonight we're going to do something different because we know you guys all really love open mic and open discussions and just whatever way the wind blows sort of thing. But we're going to keep it a little bit themed and it's a little bit similar to what we usually do. We'll put up some articles, give credit where credit is due, and, chosen some really cool stuff that Michael can give us his thoughts on. And again, please feel free to put in your comments or questions. And I see people are definitely chiming in. Very hello. Hello. I know. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. Just talk too much today.
Oh
my goodness.
Terrible.
It's allergies too.
Hello, Stig. How's it going?
Hi.
And you're going to be joining us pretty soon as well, aren't you? Yeah, Stig's going to be joining us. November 20th. We're going to be doing some Atlantis talk. We love Atlantis talk.
Yes.
So that'll be good.
Atlantis is a thing that would definitely draw me into the ocean to dive.
Well, there is a theory, of course, that Atlantis wasn't just in one part of the world like many people think. They believe it pretty much was all over the place. And when you start seeing different structures and technology, you start realizing I said it, Stig. I said it. Yes. I love Atlantis. This is going to be good. It was global. Yep, there we go. See, we're going to have a lot of fun when you get here, I promise.
Yeah.
but for tonight, we're going to have a blast. We always do when Michael is joining us, and you never know where it's going to go. And we're looking forward to it. And without further ado, hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Boy, it's been a while. Amelia, where have you been?
Migraine season. How are you?
Oh,
yeah.
I almost cursed. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go
Wonderful.
through that,
Oh, thank
Michelle.
you. I'm still. It's
Good to see
okay.
you,
It is.
Michelle. Yeah, how are you dealing with that?
When I'm not trying to kill someone in my house for making the
Yeah,
noise or
after the
walking.
12 murders, after that.
I'm okay. I mean, I've been having it for years. I had a middle ear infection years ago, and I'm used to it. Michelle knows exactly when it's going to start just by the weather, and
Oh my God.
but the last few times the vertigo's been really bad. I can't say what I think it is, right, Michelle? I wouldn't be able to say that here.
Not here.
No.
So
I'll just say
Well,
with
it's
a
good to
G
see
in
you.
it. It's good to see you too.
Michelle,
Different
always
times.
good to see you. Mwah.
Thank you. Thank you. Always
Yes.
a pleasure to see you. Gonna have
How are
so
you
much
doing?
fun tonight.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I'm a little older, so it's past my bedtime, but I'm up.
Yeah.
I get up so early. Like I
Yes.
go, and I'm just saying, I try to go I swim 3
Right.
days a week, maybe for
Good.
40 minutes, but I'm there at 5:30. But
Oof.
I get up at the times that I used to have my experiences. So
Oh.
it's just, I just realized that a few years ago, but by 7, 8 o'clock, I'm starting to wind down because I've been up since 4. And I had to work and visit people, but I'm okay. I was looking forward to this. I took like a cat nap for maybe 30 minutes.
Well, I was going to say,
And
are we
so-
going to have to start doing pre-records in the afternoon with you?
Yes, for the seniors.
No, we do them with Michelle does them
We
with
do.
people
Yeah.
over
we
I
have,
do all
Steve.
kinds of them.
The
Yeah.
early,
Yeah.
we have to do the early bird specials.
We'll pretend you're in the UK.
Unbelievable. But no, I'm
it's
feeling
understandable.
good.
You're up really early.
I'm feeling
It's
good.
understandable.
Oh, no. I
My
feel tired
God,
from the inside out.
but it's
so,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's stupid
Yeah.
early.
So you got to
That's
take care of that.
Really
You got to
stupid
take care of
early.
that. You got to take care of that. You got to take care of the, that kind of fatigue. That's the soul fatigue.
Yeah.
It is. But you know what?
We'll get through it. I mean, we
Take a
got.
second breath.
Yes, and you get energy. I can get the energy from the people tuning in.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, they were starting up in here before we even went live. I started seeing things come up in the soundboard. I'm like, whoa. So yeah, you got yourself a following there. so
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
I know. You know what? We've chosen some interesting topics that I love to research. When you said, okay, just
Mm-hmm.
find something, I'm thinking, all right, I can do this. So
Yeah, it
today was
helped.
a bit of a day, but it's like I was on it. So
She's an Energizer bunny.
it's like an adventure.
Well, you're young. You're young and strong, Michelle. We get
Oh,
it.
it's cute that you think that. Yeah, especially the young part. Thank you, though.
Oh my God.
She's had a day if she's laughing. Wow.
Well, I guess one out of 2 is not bad.
Not.
No,
Either
but the
young or
giggle,
strong.
she's had a day and a half if she's giggling like that. I could see
Oh
the
my God.
exhaustion.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
You
I'm
hit
all
that
right.
tone,
I've been
and then
going strong
everything's
for days
funny.
now.
Years.
Oh man, yeah. But you know what? I always look forward to the shows, and I always look forward to when you come on because we
Oh.
always get into such good stuff. It's always lighthearted. It's always informative, and we just basically.
And your listeners are, intelligent and astute, and that helps a lot too.
It does, and they're interested as well. When you say things, they're interested. They want to know.
Well, they're
more.
informed. They're informed, and you need that. You need an educated populace.
I
I'm not
know.
talking about Harvard, Yale educated. I'm talking
Yeah.
about
No.
people who are conscious.
Yeah.
I
Because
wouldn't be here if it was Harvard,
it's
Yale.
harder to govern people that
Don't you be doing that now? Okay, I thought you were
Just-
gone.
You just froze.
you got to have people to think. Did I freeze?
You
Yeah.
sure did.
I'm frozen.
Yeah.
No,
Am I back?
Yeah, you're coming and going. I'm like, don't even be thinking about that stuff right now.
What? I'm frozen.
No, you're all right. You're
The
okay.
frozen
now.
chosen.
you're good
Yeah.
now.
You're okay. All right. So let's see. What are we going to start with? That's just a whole lot of fun. Okay. We're going to try to keep it, UFO themed. And we have,
We have to. We can go all over. I don't mind that.
I'm not sure. Do you know Mary Joyce? She's been on our show.
Yeah.
And, you know Mary. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because I like to plug, especially people that, I know. I like to make sure we give them, especially if they've been on the show, we really want to make sure we can
Oh,
promote
she's good
everybody.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She gets some really interesting stuff. So I pulled 2 of her articles tonight, and I'm going to put them up so this way I can share it with everybody, and we can comment on it. And this one here I found was interesting. Her website is Skyships Over.
Yes. Over. Yes.
And just amazing stuff. So there's one here. It's on junk DNA. And okay, not that we want to advertise Miss Whoopi, but so
I know. Whoopi needs the money, so let's.
Yeah. She's just getting hostile.
She's not doing well. Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But I love it. After working on the Human Genome Project for 13 years, it comes up junk DNA. Like, I'll just speed through it so we can hear what you have to say. Within human DNA, which is said to be...
I'm trying to see it, yeah.
Extraterrestrial. DNA is of extraterrestrial origin. The term junk DNA was coined in the 70s when biologists could find no apparent function for 90% or 98% of the human DNA. But after extensive analysis and the help of other researchers in such diverse fields such as mathematics, chemistry, and programming, the 2-man team stated, "Our hypothesis is that more advanced extraterrestrial civilization was engaged in creating new life and planting it on various planets, Earth being one of them."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So, okay, let me just take that off. It's there in the Bible. It's there in the story of Genesis.
right.
It's there in the book of Enoch. This hybridization kind of story. It's there in the Mesopotamian texts.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'll be talking a bit about that in Michigan at the conference in a few days. But, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. People are talking about hybridization programs and things like that as if this is something new.
Right.
But if you go back to Zachariah Sitchin's work, if you go back to those books I just mentioned, you have this hybridization program going on. And probably one of the most famous hybrids we could talk about is Jesus of Nazareth.
Right.
So,
send Michael the mail.
You might want to turn YouTube off.
Yeah, no. No, some people get really hostile about that. That's why I said they could send you all the fan mail about it.
Send it to Joe Montaldo.
This is not what I'm making up.
Right.
Just go read the text.
Right.
If your daddy's human, if your mama's human and your daddy isn't, that means you're not fully human.
I agree with you.
You don't have to go to Yale to figure it out.
Love it.
And it's not the only one. I mean, you talk about Samson. An angel visits his mom. You talk about John the Baptist. So that's what we're talking about here. But we're also talking about those upgrades. Plato talks about it. And if you go back and look at his work, he talks about Atlantis, obviously, and Critias and Timaeus. He talks about the God. He believed in a creator, and he talked about the gods, which when you read it, they obviously sound extraterrestrial, and how they interacted, how we get upgrades and reboots. He talked about every 5,000 years there was some type of extinction level event. And we can say Atlantis was one of those.
Yes.
That's what he's talking about. Michael's not making it up. Just go back and read it. And he's saying that there's always a reboot, that the survivors of these cataclysms, he said they occur around every 5,000 years. There's a reboot because of the gods. So what Mary is saying is not anything new. And I'm not saying to denigrate, but if you go back to sacred texts, if you go back to some of the Aboriginal narratives, that's what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's right there for you. It's just that you just have to do the research.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, because that is everywhere, and strong presence even of extraterrestrials in the Bible. When you read up on Ezekiel's wheel, and of course the famous Book of Enoch, and more people, because she goes on to say that more and more people, that they find that their findings are being reinforced by the fact that more and more people are having alien contact or extraterrestrial contact now. And there are more stories that people are coming forth now and saying, you know what, like, we're part of some hybridization program. I was pregnant, then I wasn't. Then so we know that it's still, well, we're assuming by testimonials that this is still happening.
I'll give you another more concrete example. I mean,
Okay.
if you look at the Greek myths, they were
Yes.
called Titans.
Yes.
We call them Anunnaki, the
Yes.
Elohim, we call the Titans. But
Yes.
here, this is something. In Minoan culture, the Minoan culture comes from the patriarch Minos, right?
Mhm.
Minos was the hybrid son of Europa and Zeus. Okay.
Mm.
Now, what is so? Well, let me finish reading this.
Yes.
Europa was the daughter of the king of Phoenicia.
Mm-hmm.
She was abducted by the non-human Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
They had 3 hybrid sons, and one of them was named Minos.
Mm-hmm.
Minos began the Minoan culture. This is taught as history in
Yes.
Greece. This is not a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Right.
What I want you to hear is, because I just got back from Europe
Right.
about 10, 12 days ago on vacation in the Netherlands. The entire landmass of Europe is named after the young girl who was abducted by the non-human Zeus. Her name was Europa.
Right.
Okay? Her
Right.
name was Europa. So you
Yes.
have a whole landmass named after a woman or a
That's
young
right.
girl who was abducted by Zeus, who was not human.
Mm-hmm.
This is how embedded these stories are in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to have that sitting here. So, and I know people get very weirded out about it, but it's right there.
Mm-hmm. So what
and-
we know as mythology, Greek mythology, it's not so much mythology.
No, mythology doesn't mean it wasn't true.
Yeah. Right.
And so, we've developed that definition. There's an old saying that just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it wasn't true. But this is something that is taught as history in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And again, some of the people that started our religions were hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to wrap your mind around. Here's another thing. We don't use the word, but we were invaded. That's what the Bible tells us. That's what the Enuma Elish tells us. That's what the Vedic scriptures tell us.
Mm-hmm.
In Deuteronomy 32, we're told that Elyon, the God of Most High, in Hebrew, not the King James Version, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the most translation you can have, that we were invaded and land was divvied up. Yahweh got these people. He didn't get land. That's why they were always fighting with people to take the land. But
Mm-hmm.
Going into Canaan and going, but we were invaded, and our ancestors were trying to tell us this is what it was like to share the earth with these beings. We were invaded.
Mm-hmm.
One could argue that we still are, but we were invaded.
I
So-
think we are.
What are your thoughts then on the Anunnaki and being created as a more of a slave race?
Yes.
The missing link.
Well, if you go back and read the Mayan Popol Vuh,
Yeah.
if you go back and read the Enuma Elish and the Upanishads and the Vedic scriptures, and even some narratives from Aboriginal folk, Native American folk, and Australian, whatever. Yeah, we were. We were created to be a slave race to these beings. Zachariah Sitchin talks about it in his Earth Chronicles series. And Enki and Allele, and I always forget which one was more of an ally for us, but Enki, I think it was Allele, who some people say is Yahweh, wanted to keep us so stupid and dumbed down that we didn't even know we were naked. We were like animals. And Leo, I mean, and Enki wanted to keep it. Let's see where this experiment is going to take us. And when you read or when you hear these narratives from all over the world, they tell you that we didn't know how to do this. We were taught what plants were good for consciousness, what plants were poisonous. We were taught how to do animal husbandry and farming, and we were taught that. What group of people, usually groups of people want to make themselves look good, you know, but people, these civilizations say we were taught that from beings from the stars. And again, it's not Reverend Carter telling you this. Go do the research and read the texts.
We need a book list, I think, for our audience.
And Anunnaki and the Elohim, you know, different names for probably a same group of beings. They fought each other. When you read the Old Testament, these beings are fighting each other. That's why there were so many gods. This is why Yahweh says, I don't want any other gods before me. I don't even want to see you I don't want you to draw a picture of them. I'm jealous of this. And so they're fighting. And so humanity is in the crossfire. You go back and you read the Upanishads, the other Vedic scriptures, the Mahabharata. They're talking about these flying machines, and they're fighting amongst each other. Human beings are fighting on the sides of each of these gods. It's just right there. And they're Vimanas. Sometimes they're described as flying cities.
Wow.
You know, it's they're described as blue people. I'm not saying they're Arcturians, but you know, when you see these old paintings and pictures of Vishnu, for instance, or Krishna, I'm sorry, they're blue.
Yes.
They're
And down to the
blue.
land bridge that used to connect from Mew down to what I guess would be now Australia, New Zealand area that just seems to have been under the water. Of course,
well, you bring up a great point, because people don't realize, we don't stop to think that the land masses were different then.
Yes,
thousands of years
Very
ago.
different.
And you could probably travel easier. But my point being is that you know, this is what's going on, and what has been going on. So, you know, but we don't frame it that way. But Earth was invaded. Earth, you know, they divvied up the land and married some Earth women and had some slaves, and it was a good life for these folks.
Yeah.
Well, who's to say? I mean, there's ancient civilizations that have been shown to go back millions of years, sometimes hundreds of millions, and some billions. I mean, when you're looking at out-of-place artifacts and areas that have been discovered, like mines, uranium mines that they've shown, like the old metal wheels in them that have sort of calcified, and they're thinking like they've dated them like billions of years.
Yeah. And
technology. I mean,
the technology
who was here
there
before us, right? Maybe.
Oh yeah, and if you and if what Plato is saying is true, that there have been many floods.
Yes.
Okay, there have been many pole shifts. You know, Edgar Casey talks about that. We could be living in that time now, and so. And so all these civilizations are gone, and then when you find these discoveries at Göbekli Tepe and other places, we're like, whoa!
It's stunning, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can't even get me started on that.
They were destroyed probably too. Just like we will be under the water hundreds, thousands of years from now, and people may not know we even existed. Maybe they'll find the Statue of Liberty underwater. I mean, you never know. But if what Plato is saying is true, there have been many cataclysms, and so civilizations are older than we think, and they rise and they fall, and then another one comes on and rises and falls, and it sounds like a cycle.
It's definitely a cycle. I mean, you have your ice age that's every what, like 12,000 years ballpark.
Mhm.
Things remain hidden, things surface, and now they've got this new thing where they feel like they've got to bury important places to save it for future archaeology of the future. We need to protect it. I've been, Gobekli Tepe, it only comes to mind because you mentioned it. Do you know that they've been planting like hundreds of trees over top of it? And those trees will
What?
destroy it. You know
I,
why?
I
An
didn't know that.
organization that the WEF is affiliated with has some kind of 10-year plan with them. They've donated all this money, and it's considered now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means the world gets to vote on it, not just Turkey, as
That's
to what
not fair.
happens to it. And now we know there's something substantial under there. You know there is. I mean, there's stuff you don't hear about, but when you research it, there's tunnels, there's chambers, there's everything down there. You plant trees over that, that's not, you rebury it, that's protecting it. Planting trees over it, those roots are going to be very destructive over
Yeah.
decades.
Mm.
So, hard to say it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
It's
That
been a
is
bone of contention with me, and now there's these memes going around. There's people going around saying, "Why don't you just bury Stonehenge?" Because it's that
Right.
monumental of a discovery.
Mm.
that is
One of the oldest.
terrible. And that's not right that they can make that decision for Turkey. That's just wrong that it's political.
Oh boy,
What are they trying to hide?
it's a whole other show.
Yeah, I know.
And on that note,
I just had to put it out there, just let you know I am following. I know what, because I'm so
Wow.
interested because you two are so knowledgeable. I
Oh.
need a book list, Reverend. That's all I'm saying. I need a book
I
list.
can get you one. I can get you
Yeah,
one.
I'm just
There's an old saying, Amelia, if you want to learn something new, read an old book.
always. I collect them.
Read an
But
old book.
I need a list for this.
Yes,
Definitely.
I've seen those. Um,
Oh.
okay, next one. Again, Mary Joyce. So Skyship over Cashiers. This one is new, and this is just surface. This is a new old story that was presented by CBS News in Los Angeles, August of 2024. It's the eyewitness testimony of Jose Padilla, who was 9 years old when he and his friend were riding horses on his father's ranch in New Mexico and saw a UFO crash, 1945, 2 years before Roswell, the Roswell crash. So
Yeah,
they saw
yeah,
the crash,
yeah.
right? 3 ETs fleeing.
Yeah. It
to the
sounds
place.
like I was just listening to Jacques Vallée
Ah,
talk
yeah.
about it may have even been this story. It's a story called the Trinity Crash. There's a book out.
Okay.
And it sounds just like this. There were two Mesoamerican kids, male,
Mhm.
who saw the ship crash and the beings in it.
Yeah.
And
3
if I'm
ETs.
not mistaken, you can Google it, or you can go to Amazon now while I'm talking. And I think if you type in Trinity, he's the co-author. And this may be that story.
Well, it says that there were 3 ETs that were fleeing, and the military arrived to recover and clean up the site.
Yeah.
And they watched all of this while being behind a cacti on a ridge overlooking the site. So the military personnel left the site for a while. They ventured into the spacecraft, and Jose took a souvenir, which was part of a metal dial. So apparently you can go on YouTube. There is a 7-minute CBS News video about it, and there's a link here. So check out Mary's site, Skyship Over Cashiers, and you could find the story, and you can find the link and go and check out the video. So apparently this is something that's just surfaced, at least, many years later, is publicly, where they themselves are telling the story. But it's always fascinating when it's like 2 years before Roswell. Everything changed after Roswell. And
Well, that the public knew about. If you listen to David Grush, he said that in 1937, a ship had crashed in Italy, and the Vatican let the United States know about that. So even during the 30s, there's talk of some crashes at that time.
I wonder if underneath in those archives they have. I mean, 54 miles of a library can fit a ship, a small one, right?
Oh,
They
you
have
mean
it.
in the
Or an
Vatican?
alien
They have
body.
an alien skull.
Yeah,
They
I
do have
think they
one.
have more than that they're not talking about.
Well, it's one that they know of. I mean, there's stories of sightings, and I remember reading about this little town. You're going back into late 1800s, maybe early 1900s, where a craft had crashed, and there was a little alien, and he died in the crash, and the
Oh,
community buried him, and the priest
Yes,
presided over him.
I'm familiar
Right,
with
you
that.
know the
that's
one, right?
beautiful.
And yeah, there's a little monument there for him. And now I'm not sure, if memory serves me correctly, if somebody went back to dig him up, or if they tried to dig him up, or something along those lines. They don't know that if he's even still there, because a reporter tried to get in and get more
Mhm.
information, because I think the monument became public at some point. Somebody recently saw it, and like I say recent, mid 1900s. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I
so
was 17, yes, I get that.
mhm. Yeah. I'll go with that. No.
I was
Okay.
17 back then. Yeah, I was a young man.
uh, Crash in Nova Scotia was the Shag Harbor. That was in the 70s. That one.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one that I'm going to put up, and you can give me your thoughts on this one. I thought this was very cool. This one here, it goes back to Neil Armstrong had an alien expedition. Have you heard of this one, Michael? In the Cueva de
Oh,
las Torres in 1976,
mm,
and embarked on
Oh,
a journey quite different from his famous lunar landing. This time, it took him to the South American jungles in search of extraterrestrial mysteries hidden in the cave as Cueva de los Tallos. So it was the cave of the oil birds. Sounds nothing like what I just tried to say in Spanish, but anyway.
you got it.
Yeah, woohoo. And the legends and theories goes back, nestled in the Andean mountains of Ecuador. It has long been shrouded in mystery. The cave's very name comes from its nocturnal inhabitants, oil birds, tallos in Spanish. They were hunted by the local Shuar people. However, the cave's true allure lies in the legends of ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial connections to be believed to be hidden within its depths. So it was first entered the spotlight thanks to Hungarian explorer, yeah, Janos Juan Morix. I'm just going to take a freaking stab at it. So,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're doing great.
yeah.
yeah. I do too.
Thank you. Anyway, in 1969, he had discovered an astonishing find inside the chambers: gold, strange carvings, and a mysterious metal library containing tablets written in an unknown language. These findings, according to him, suggested the existence of a lost civilization that may have had contact with beings from the stars. So the theory caught the attention of Swiss author Eric von Daniken, of course, known for his works on ancient astronauts, and of course, his 1972 book, The Gold of the Gods. He included these claims, sparking further interest in the cave, and posited the cave could prove or hold proof of extraterrestrial influence on human civilizations, which drew explorers from around the world. We can go on and on, but I think we get the gist of it. So, what are your thoughts?
Well,
That's
my
pretty cool.
thoughts are this. I think as we enter this new age that we're going into, the age of Aquarius,
Mhm.
all of these mysteries are being revealed.
Mhm.
And I think that it's time now. And people are ready for this. People are hungry for this. And so you're going to hear more and more crash site retrievals. You're going to hear
Mhm.
more and more about this kind of stuff as we go on.
Mhm.
Aquarius is about uh, many things, but it's about diversity and it's about technology
Mhm.
because that's what's going to be the future. You're going to have to get used to diversity, not just in
Mhm.
with the way people look or their skin color, but the way people think. Thought. Patterns of thought and ways of thinking are part of diversity as well. And it's going to
Mhm.
be about tech because we're going into a higher tech kind of world. And so you're going to hear more of these stories that were shrouded in mystery or were hidden because it's that time now. And I think it's exciting because people are ready to hear it. When we were told that it would screw up religion if we told people that we have been visited and that kind of thing. Yes, there's always going to be people who they're going to flip. And that's, I can understand why you would. But I think the majority of humanity, this is just my opinion, and I think especially here in the United States, people would be okay with it. We'd survive it. The United States lags behind. Brazil, some European countries, they're much more open about this phenomenon.
Always
We're
have.
the only ones that, and I get it. It's above my pay grade, but I get it. There's a national security kind of risk going on. I understand that. I wish there wasn't, but this is life. And I know that, whoever has this tech really controls everything, especially militarily. But you can do that, and at the same time, you can still be more transparent with your citizens about what's going on in the world, where around economics, around religion, government, exopolitics, if you want to use the word.
Sure.
You can do both. Geopolitics, obviously.
What are your thoughts?
What's concerning, real quick, Michelle, I'll make this brief.
We have lots of time. You don't have to be brief.
No. What's concerning, you should have never told that. No, what's concerning is that now, I would just keep an eye on it, because now with all these whistleblowers, Lou Elizondo's new book is out, and of course, Brother Grudge came out last July at the hearings, and other people, they're all military. They're all either in intelligence or they were in the military, and so it seems like the only true experiencer is someone who's in military intelligence, when there are people like you and me and Amelia and just everyday folk who are having these experiences too, but they're not being privileged. That narrative, it's not true unless it's coming from the government.
Yeah.
And that's concerning to me.
Do you think it's because with military, first off, they know they're pretty much have to sign off and secrecy. Joe will tell you that because he served on the Nimitz, when the Nimitz had an incredible story of a craft landing right on it. And 30, 40-year NDAs, but also I think, getting into maybe my lab situations as well, where they're taking some of their own people who are having experiences, because they'll tell you, hey, you're military, you belong to us. We want to know what you experienced.
I think you're much more generous. I think it's this simple. If I control the narrative,
right,
I control you.
Right.
I control your reaction to the narrative.
Yes.
And that's not to say that what you're saying is not true. It could be all of the above. But all I know is that if I control the narrative, I control your reaction to the narrative.
Well, absolutely. I know a lot of military people.
I think it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's just as simple. We're militarily, we're the greatest country in the world. Militarily. How do you become a superpower? By keeping other people from becoming superpower.
Oh, of course. Yeah, sure.
So if I get my hands on this tech, where I can put up domes and I can use lasers and what have you, then I have the military advantage and I control the planet.
Of course.
So isn't that what we're seeing happen?
I think we're seeing a lot of that happen.
It's happened before.
It'll keep happening. Absolutely.
So I'm not gonna give them that. I'm just saying that this is by design. When we're
absolutely. And I'm just saying they're not all extraterrestrial experiences.
No.
I won't argue that,
But I'm just
Yeah.
talking, I'm trying to stay in my lane in the terms of extraterrestrial experiences.
Right.
What is being privileged is what the military is saying
Mm-hmm.
or what military intelligence is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And, when people like John Mack first came out and caught flack, and even Bud and folks like that, Bud Hopkins, the everyday person was, I wouldn't say privileged, but they were taken much more seriously. You don't hear that anymore.
No.
You hear what military intelligence is telling you, and that's always a problem. It's always a problem when everything is so militarized. Even if we don't look at the UFO phenomenon, more and more of civilian jobs and higher levels of government are now held by military people. That says something.
It does. It does. But you look at even deathbed confessions of World War I air, plane pilots. And they're saying, we were never allowed to say it, but it's the deathbed moment. And they're like, we saw stuff while we were up there.
Yes.
Like they were just sworn to see because you couldn't say anything. But family members have come forward and said, oh my God, my grandfather or my father had come out with stories. I read some of these things and I'm just like, it's always been there. No one's been allowed to talk about it.
Right, because your pension, you got a family,
everything.
And you took an oath, your national, you got to send, non-disclosure NDAs and stuff like that. And again, here we are in the age of Aquarius, where all will be revealed. All will be revealed. No lie lives forever, Nietzsche reminded us. And so now we're seeing people breaking their national security oath, and they're not on their deathbeds. You have people talking. Hey, Catherine Four Feathers. You have people. Thank you. You have people. Eric Davis. You have Gary Nolan. I was just listening to him the other day. He came out and said, I believe the government's lying. And
but some people are in a position where they can say it unscathed. Like I always get it,
and that's called disclosure. That's called disclosure.
Yes, which would be like
we're already in disclosure,
right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Salas, when he interviews his contact JP, I mean, that's taking a really big risk. Like you're just coming out, he's laying it all out there. And many have done it, like Corey Good, for example, as an example, who got shut right down. Like some of them they back off because of being threatened.
Well, also everything is timing too.
You're right.
But again, the government decides when it's okay for you to talk about it. That's just the way the game is played. When you're in those higher echelon, when you're, I mean, it's not Mickey Mouse. It's a little more serious. I'm talking about it here. I work at a church, blah, blah, blah. But when you're in security and intelligence, it's a little more serious. But again, Hayam Mashed, 28 years, head of Israel's, he's a brigadier general, retired, 28 years head of their space security. What happens in 2008, December, he comes out and says that there's a galactic federation, that their bases on the moon and Mars, that we've been lying about this for 70 years, which takes you back to the Truman and Eisenhower administration, says that there is such a thing as a galactic federation. He's walking around free.
Well, you're talking Solar Ward and stuff, and people are just like, it's so surreal. Free. You're so surreal. People are like, no, that's crazy. But there's a lot of, because we've had them on the show. We've had retired Air Force people and military people come on and went, no, there's stuff going on. We've had these experiences, and we are. So
he's come out and said it. Eric Davis, George McKinnon, Chris Mellon.
Yes.
But Hayam Mashed, though, put it out on the table that there's a galactic federation, that there are bases on the moon and Mars, that we've been lying about this. The United States, Israel have all been in touch with these civilizations since for 70 years. And this is what was intriguing. He said that there are extraterrestrials that don't want disclosure yet because we're not ready yet. And not because of consciousness, not because we're warlike and crazy. He's basically, he intimated and implied, Hayam Mashed, that once we become a space-faring civilization, once we learn the secrets of space, then we can sit at the galactic table, but not until. I thought that was very interesting. My point being is that he was walking around free. Nobody locked him up. Nobody said he was crazy. Dmitry Medvedev, Putin's right hand, he said in a hot mic, what was it, 2008, something like that, that every Russian president, not Russian president, because Putin's been a president forever, but every new Russian politician, if they have a need to know, they get a dossier on all the civilizations that Russia's in contact with. He said that on a hot mic. Putin didn't lock him up, didn't send him to Siberia. He didn't drink, he didn't get poisoned.
No.
But Russia was also one of the first countries to disclose.
That's what they want to be,
A
is
lot
first
of their
at everything.
military and their Air Force people,
But
they disclose a lot, not everything.
But I'm just saying, but
yes.
when people are running around saying, when is disclosure, disclosure,
It's
this is disclosure.
It's just, it's really just in the United States, right? That you're holding back. I mean, Canada gave up a long time ago, but
Yeah, well, yeah. But the United States isn't holding back so much anymore.
No.
And that's what I'm saying, that there are people fighting for disclosure. Brother Steve Bassett, for instance.
He's on in a couple of weeks.
He's a good brother.
Next week after.
But we're already in disclosure.
Yes.
It's just not the way people may want it. They want someone to come out on the White House lawn and say, guess what, folks? No, that's not going to happen. That'd be political suicide. But when you have Lou Elizondo, when you have David Grush, when you have Eric Davis, when you have these physicists coming out and saying, we're working on exotic materials, we have crashed, we know that they're bodies, we have exotic material, that's disclosure. That's disclosure. I mean, I don't know how when people complain about not having disclosure, how do you want it?
I think Michelle wants them in front of the camera.
Bring it up.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people do, because, I think you've just spent so many years. I mean, you have camera phones now. Pretty much everybody's got one. You have an experience. You can go out, you can capture, photograph, you can do different things. Then to be told, no, we've never seen aliens. Yes, maybe some spaceships. No, like there's so much dancing around, I think. Because when you do have Stephen Bassett just still going strong, like he's going to talk about this in a couple of weeks, but it's just a matter of like he's really passionate about it, because he just feels that there's so much that isn't being put out there yet and that should be put out there. So I think,
we can all agree on that.
Yeah,
I think we can all agree on that. And I would say that to Steve. I haven't seen him in a few years. We all want more transparency, but but you don't have control over that.
Right.
You don't have control over that. You don't have control over Skunk Works and Lockheed Martin and these other you don't have control over that.
It's like we're getting getting the morsels that they are that they're giving us, essentially.
Yes, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is okay for me, and this is Steve's calling, but I'm saying it may not be the way you or I would do it, but when people are coming out and saying these things and breaking their their non-disclosure agreements and still walking around free, that's disclosure. That's disclosure. I mean, a couple years ago, you couldn't say that without having your family threatened or something untoward happening to you.
Well, at that time, there was control and we didn't have cell phones. I feel like cell phones the technology has always been there, but it was brought out at a certain time to help us evolve and see more, connect. I mean, internet has its good and bad, right? It's great now. We're together.
Right, Amelia. No, I'm not. But this is bigger than cell phones.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just throwing out a thought. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the government is deciding how much and when and where to do this.
Yeah.
So they're powers that be. I read a book which you may be interested in. It was a tough read only because it's written in the old English way. It's called The Secret Commonwealth. It's by a Presbyterian minister named Robert Kirk. Reverend Kirk lived in like the 12th century, 13th century, and he was hearing all of these stories about fairies and demons and, you know, people coming in ships and what have you. And when people weren't taking it seriously, he decided to. And it's worth getting. You can get it on Amazon. I got it for like $8, $10. And it's a small book, but again, it's the old English, so you got to read things maybe 2 or 3 times. And what he came to, he was very open-minded to be doing this, you know, those hundreds of years ago.
Oh, for sure.
I may have it over there. He came to the conclusion that human beings on planet Earth, the only way they can understand how governments are run is you have to remember that there's an extraterrestrial overlay to all governments. And the pyramid structure is you have your leaders, you have your elite leaders, and then you have an extraterrestrial overlay. And they're telling our leaders what to do. And he said that the way you can, it was interesting. I'm not saying that that's true.
For 12th or 13th century, that's pretty amazing.
He was saying that you can tell when there's an extraterrestrial overlay to your government, when your government is so greedy and its policies are so, for lack of a better word, not human, that there's no compassion in your policies, there's no empathy, there's no mercy. He's saying that when you start to see that in your government or other governments, it's a clear sign that the leaders of those countries may be getting their marching orders from non-human intelligence. Now, he didn't say all of them.
No.
Non-human intelligence was sinister, but he was saying that you could probably bet that that there's a non-human element that's going on in your government.
I can see how that fits because without getting into politics, everything that's going on around the world right now is so similar. Like the same struggles that are happening here are happening across the pond, are happening across the, you know, it's never been like this before where I'm trying to say this without getting yanked, but you understand what I'm getting at, right? Okay.
I think there's stories that circulate everywhere. I think the reptilians take the biggest hit for the ones being in government. And with that being said, they've allegedly been here, one of the longest that have been in whatever is it, whether it's in inner earth, whether they're just subterranean on average. I mean, wasn't there a guy not all that long ago, like I think it was like in the 80s, who was investigating a whole tunnel system under the city of Los Angeles, which were reptilians, because reptilians were coming up in people's houses. Like there were people coming forward and saying, like, this giant reptile just came up through my closet on the main floor. And when I came in and saw him, he bolted. So I don't know if he was a scientist. I don't know if he was just a researcher, but he started investigating all of these tunnels under the city of Los Angeles. And apparently it led to subterranean, like there was it was pretty vast.
Wow. It's so hard to speak without, because we want to get so deep, but we have to be careful that we're not censored. There's also, the CERN opening portal doesn't help.
And that's a astrophysicist that came forward, and she whistle blew that she personally saw a portal under CERN.
Oh yeah.
Just saying. That can't be good. So, I don't know.
But how do you feel about the reptilians, Michael? There's so many different opinions of them. Some think that they're to be feared. Some think that they're kind.
I think they run the gamut. I mean, one of my contacts was with reptilians. They did not harm me. They scared the what out of me because of the way they looked.
Yeah.
If you go back to some of our narratives, whether they're Aboriginal or what have you, you have people talking about reptilians being very helpful. So
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful with the intergalactic racism thing, because that's pretty much what we're talking about, where you judge a whole group of people because of maybe your limited experience or what you've heard. So that's where I'll leave that.
I wonder if some people don't realize that maybe they really aren't having a conversation with a reptilian. Maybe this is something that's shapeshifted to mimic and create this
or
problem.
give you the illusion. They're projecting an image of what they want.
Yes.
But and that could be true. But remember, we are in the West. We are taught that the snake is evil.
And it's not.
It's not.
Right. It's
that whole archetype, anything reptilian or snake looking, whereas you go to China, dragons and stuff are revered.
Exactly.
So that's also part of this phobia. When you look at what do you call it, the cadascus or whatever like
the DNA
the
thing.
Medical thing, that's a reptilian, that's a snake. That's supposed to be a sign of healing.
That's
in
right.
Some cultures, they're healers. That's healing.
Right.
So you have a lot to look at there.
Well, every Italian girl has a snake ring. Just saying. It's just like a rite of passage. You get one when you're in your teens, and I don't know anyone who doesn't have one. And there's a whole thing behind it of protection.
That protection, but it's also knowledge. And all you've got to do is remember that, and Michael, I'm sure you can chime in. You just look at ancient cultures that would emulate what they saw or what they respected or what they revered. There's hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, you name it, all over the world. Look at the just ancient structures throughout the world. But I'll use South America, going down to Machu Picchu. All of these places, have a very big serpent overtone to them. So they would not,
and it's not all negative.
Exactly.
But they don't also have the Christian baggage that we have, that we've been indoctrinated with. Well, maybe they do at the Catholic nations, but somehow they seem to navigate that. But we have this whole thing. You pick up the Bible, and the serpent is the bad person, and the serpent is evil. Yeah, and so that sticks in your mind, that whole archetype thing. And so that's there. That all I know is this: the two I saw did not hurt me. There's hints in the Bible that Yahweh may have been more reptilian looking, and granted, he had his problems. But I am just saying that you want to be careful because you don't want to judge a whole group of people.
Exactly. You have your good and bad in every culture, right?
And you have your indifferent.
Yes. Okay. Well, speaking of, here's the next article. And we'll stay right on the narrative. Here we go. So this is howandwise.com. Gigantic underground cave in Vietnam could be habitat to an ancient reptilian race. So here we go, talking about ancient cultures. Recent episode of History Channel's Ancient Aliens. There we go. Michael?
I can recognize your voice 3 rooms away. Just saying.
That's right. So they revealed some compelling evidence about the world's largest cave in Vietnam, the Hang Song Dune, for those who are listening, is one of the few unexplored places on Earth which is linked to mysterious sightings of strange reptilian and great creatures that stand on 2 legs. There are legends about these creatures who I hate saying creatures, who are similar to the seraphim or the winged serpents in the Kabbalistic traditions. It translates as, or Sundong translates to mountain river cave. and it belongs to, I'm not even going to attempt it, but we're in Vietnam. And it was discovered accidentally by a local man named Ho Khan in 1990, only in 1990, wow, while visiting the jungles in central Vietnam. It is more than 200 meters wide, 150 meters high, and at least 6.5 kilometers long. An entire New York City block can fit inside of it. So here's our guy who found it. So as we go in, apparently they don't let a lot of people in here. So he led members, they're saying here, only 1,000 tourists are allowed to visit each year. And they have to, okay, so it's an adventure place. The only company with permission to take travelers inside. He took a team in 1994, and the cave sinks into an enclosed valley with no way in at the sink. So legends of creatures. This 3 million-year-old subterranean realm has grasped the attention of the ancient astronaut theorists. And according to local residents, the most notable, what's notable about it are the strange creatures, again, beings that are believed to dwell within it. And they describe these reptilian-type humanoids emerging, and they believe they actually live deep inside the cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard stories like that. You know, what was interesting about you reading that is that at least there was no judgment of whether they were good or evil. They just gave you what
Yeah.
they thought.
Yes.
Now, granted, it's another culture. And again, if you look, if you know, a lot of, you know, like the Hopi, for instance,
Mhm.
they talk about the ant people, these people who lived
Yeah.
underground.
Mhm.
If we've had all these cataclysms and floods and pole shifts, which it looks like we've had, a lot of people did go underground and probably stayed there and probably are still there now. So, and now you're hearing more talk about crypto-terrestrials, beings who live underground, that kind of thing. So it just lends itself. What I want to say is that once you get it, that the universe is teeming with life, visible, invisible. Some need ships, some don't. Some have bodies, some don't. Some feed on your energy, like archons. You hear about them in us. Then, you know, you're not shocked by this because we live in a unit. It's not just us. It never was. And we live in a universe that is full of life. Full of life. And so these stories just lend itself to, you know, that kind of hypothesis. And so I'm really not surprised. And I don't think, you know, if you've had any type of paranormal experience, if you've had any type of sighting or extraterrestrial experience, probably doesn't surprise you. That we're not alone, and there are many life forms, and some have been here longer than we have. Some will be here long after we've gone, and so we're just getting it that we're not at the top of the food chain. I think that's what's hard for a lot of people to grasp, because we've been taught that we're the only thinking, intelligent beings in the galaxy, and these stories keep telling us otherwise.
There's, I mean, ancient cultures that go way back. Those doesn't mean all those ancient cultures were human.
Exactly.
Humanoid, maybe, but not human.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
And
So
when
many
you start
questions.
talking about being tampered with, now you're getting into religion, and that's a scary topic for people. And it also starts challenging your notions about what is God, is there a God? And we also know, unfortunately, that religion can be used to control people. And so we want to control the narrative. We'll tell you what's fake news. We'll tell you what's real. We'll tell you who God is. You don't worry about that. We'll let you know that. And when you have people who are saying, well, I'm in contact with a reptilian, I'm in contact with a Palladian, I don't need the government. I got knowledge that the government does. I don't need their knowledge. You become a threat.
I was going to say, like, along those lines, they removed God from state. They removed God from schools. Do you think they did that so that people would have to be dependent on what the government says rather than have
No,
faith in
no,
something?
I don't know who they are.
No, I
Who's
don't either.
removing, but I no, people aren't removing God from schools. They're just saying that your interpretation of this God may be different from mine, and I don't need to be subject to that.
Oh, here they've removed them from school. Like
Who is they?
the government in Canada, like we don't have prayer in school like we used to.
Right. Well, things change. I mean, it's more of a
Yeah.
secular world that we live in now, but you can still go home and worship your God. You
Yeah.
can still, in the privacy of your own home or what have you. And that's a whole different question. And I don't want to get into that deep
No, no.
of
No,
politics.
no.
I don't know what's going
Not
on
getting
in
into
Canada.
politics. I'm wondering if it's just part of the evolving.
Well, I
I'm
think it
taking a
is.
different spin on it. Yeah.
No, I think it is. Many people do not, when I talk to people and they say, I don't believe in God. And I say, tell me about the God you don't believe in. And you know what? When they tell me
Oh no.
about the God they don't believe in, I don't believe in that God either. And so, because it's the old man up in the sky who's going to punish you like Santa Claus if you're naughty
Yeah.
or nice. Not so much that. I'm talking
Yeah.
about that when you start talking about paleo contact, which is what we're talking about, the hypothesis that we were in contact with extraterrestrial civilizations in the ancient past, when you start talking about slave being tampered with and slave races and that kind of thing, you're also beneath that, the elephant in the room is there God? Or what does that word mean?
Yeah.
That is threatening to people, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I can't get into the schools.
No, for sure.
No. I was just curious if it's like.
No, go ahead.
No, thank you. I was just curious if it was like some form of helping everyone evolve to understand a bit more. I'm not in the political sense, like more of it's a timing thing and they're controlling the timing.
I think people find safety within their faith. They feel safe, they feel very protected, and they should. And I think with that, when you maybe threaten that in some form, or by introducing something that is outside of the norm, that we're conditioned to look at our faith and to draw strength from it. So you look outside the box, all of a sudden you see something that has been hidden in the agenda is like, well, that's an alien. What am I supposed to do with that? I know that even the Vatican said, oh no, we're going to prepare our people to deal with the masses when this happens. So they're obviously foreseeing potentially, a problem with the people who really have strong faith to be able to cope with that. So I'm just wondering if there's that happy medium in there somewhere for the people who are going to probably be stepping out of the box to that degree. It might be the only thing they've ever really been challenged with. So, what do you say to people like that? Because we are in the age of disclosure. And there's going to be things that are going to be coming forward that, to try to say, well, this has been your faith all along. It's just been stuff that maybe you haven't been taught, or you should research.
It gets scary for some, right? Like I know I had fear before growing up Roman Catholic, but I take bits and pieces of what I need for me, and I leave the rest behind because I have a different sense of what I believe is out there than what I was taught to. But being raised, we have that saying, Catholic guilt, for a reason. Whenever I would start to study something, I would always be like, what are you doing? This is so wrong. This goes against everything. I'm talking about years ago, not now, like 5-6 years ago, not that long, but that's when it started. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be going through that. And it's going to be a little bit divisive, right? And it's a lot based on fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's why we're having piecemeal discussions about disclosure.
Yeah. Good point.
Everything is piece. This is how it's being put out. However, what the flip side of what I'm saying, and of course the Vatican has been on the forefront of this. One thing, I wasn't raised Catholic, but the Vatican is the only denomination I know that's taking this seriously and talking about it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but the other thing is that they're, you know, I'm going to use the whole Star Trek thing here. The good,
Sure.
the
I
good,
have to get into that.
the good for the many is always, you know, is privileges over the needs of the few. And there's always going to be, you're not ever going to get 100% of the people on board. Some people are going to jump out of windows. Some people are going to go crazy. You know, it's going to be an ontological shock, but that doesn't mean that you don't do it.
No,
That
I
doesn't
think,
mean that you don't do it, you know?
yeah.
And so that's the balancing act. Now you can spoon feed people and that's okay, but eventually they're going to have to get on board or not. You're not going to get 100% of the population saying, oh God, you know, we're not alone. Okay. Yeah. You're going to have extremes, but you know, what do? You know, you don't not be transparent because of that.
No. Well, I think the same people that have difficulty understanding the paranormal have difficulty understanding that there are other beings. They feel like, no, it's all from like Star Trek shows and Doctor Who, and this can't be possible. But I can tell you, my father, rest in peace, was born in 1930. And I remember asking him when I was little, I was very little. I was probably about 8 years old. So it was about 1977, 1978. When they started with the world is ending again, there was that big fear. I remember it being on the radio and how they were talking about it. My brother was putting the fear of God in me too with it because he thought it was funny. And I asked my dad, do you think there's other people? Like, we're the only ones here? And I remember him saying, there has to be other people. We can't be the only ones, you know, and that helped me get through things. But yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that, and I'm a clergy person, so I think that the clergies, we need to be, and I don't know how we're going to do that, but that's why I do what I do. And I think that people need to know. For instance, people call me and they say, can I be a Christian and believe in UFOs? I say, of course you can. Of course you can. And I try to tell them, you know, you got to do some research, but look at church history. When you look at the early church fathers, Origen, Justin Martyr, Clement of Alexandria, just to name a few, they knew that Yahweh was not God. They knew that. They said, what are we going to do about the First Testament? Because the Old Testament, because he's doing things in there that the most wicked man or woman wouldn't do. So they were wrestling with those things too, but you're never taught that.
No, but it's all out there.
They found a way, you know, to keep their faith tradition and realize that they lived in a populated universe, because it's right there. If you go to 1 John 4, you read the first couple verses of that. What do they tell you? John, well, whoever's writing it, says, you got to test the spirits that you come in contact with. So they're telling you that there are other things in the world. There's spirits. It's right there. Michael's not making it up. 1 John chapter 4. Test the spirits to see if they're from God or what have you. Okay. Now we think of spirits as a disembodied individual, but the ancients looked at spirits as someone who could pop up in your living room and then pop out again. So they're telling you
it's energy
that there are other beings, that there are other beings are there. Right. And so this isn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is nothing new. Our ancestors were going through this as well.
Yeah.
They just wrote it down in the Bible. And so I look at that as they're trying to tell us this is what it was like to share this planet with these beings.
Mm-hmm.
That's what those stories are telling you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what those stories
You
are
said
telling
that. I like that.
So we're
you. Now, if you go to 1 Kings 22, 13 to 28, there's a prophet there. His name is Micaiah, not Michael. And he's remote viewing. He's saying he's having a vision. I'm using the word remote viewing. He's remote viewing the Heavenly Council. We would call it a Galactic Federation. They're sitting around a table. And what they're doing is they're trying to create a false flag operation. They're trying to start a war. And Yahweh, the Elohim, are saying, who will come forth and put this lie into the mouth of this king? And it doesn't say an angel comes forward. It doesn't say a person comes forward. It says a spirit steps forward and says, I will. So they're already wrestling with what we're wrestling with now.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. The only thing is they didn't have the language that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
We
tell
have
me
the
that
language.
once a week?
First, Micaiah, 1 Kings 22, verses 13 to 28.
Mm-hmm.
We can go in the book of Daniel. I think it's chapter 10. Daniel 10:13. The angel Michael.
Yeah.
He comes. He tells Daniel. He says, I'm paraphrasing. He says, man, I'd have been here 21 days ago. He said, it took him 3 weeks to get there. He said, because I was fighting the Prince of Persia, who was probably another ET.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I was delayed. This is why I'm late getting to you. Took me 3 weeks. I'm in battle with the king of Persia. This is Michael, the warrior angel,
Mm-hmm.
who is probably an extraterrestrial. What are they doing? They're fighting each other.
Yeah.
Daniel 10, 13.
Thank you.
I'm not making it up. It's just right there.
Yeah.
It's just that we were taught not to look at it that way. We were
Yes.
taught that these are God stories.
So is
They're
this
not
old?
God's-
Is this his Old Testament, Michael? Or
Yeah.
See, I always say the Old Testament has a lot more in it of this sort of information. You know, I think a lot of it was left out. Maybe some of it just sort of got mistranslated. Maybe, you know, I think, you know, I do agree with the control thing. It's like all of these stories, they don't all need to be in here.
Yeah.
And I don't find that the New Testament has as much.
They do. It does.
Does it? Is it just
Yeah,
reworded?
Well,
Yeah.
if you're talking about are there extraterrestrial stories, of course. If you look when Peter, who comes to get Peter out of jail? The angel
Mm-hmm.
comes and breaks him out of jail. Who comes to help Paul when he's on his way to Rome? Well, of course, there's that shipwreck. This is in Acts, the book of Acts.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that?
Mm-hmm.
The angel. Okay, of course, we have the Jesus stories. So if you put
People don't look at those as disembodied. They look at angels and Jesus as things entirely different. Even though when you break it down, it's pretty much exactly what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't just speaking about disembodied. I was just thinking about that whether they're disembodied or whether they're extraterrestrial, you have all these other life forms that our ancestors are dealing with.
Yes.
And they're in the New Testament as well.
Yeah.
So the archangels could all be different beings than what we're taught and believe them to be.
I personally think from my research and the readings that these angels are extraterrestrial. I believe our ancestors drew them with wings to let us know they could fly.
Yeah. I've heard that
see,
before.
The thing about angel, angelos in Greek, and malek in Hebrew, is that they don't tell you where the angels are from. They just tell you what they do. An angel means messenger, emissary.
Yeah.
Emissary. But that doesn't tell us what they look like. It doesn't tell us where they came from or where they're going. They come, they deliver a message, and they leave.
Yeah. So like now I'm rethinking. Okay, the Catholicism, we have Gabriel the messenger, we have Raphael, he's a healer, and you've got Michael. I mean, there's so many of them, but they all have something that really would be what you would think from an incredible being that could be from a different planet, a different universe.
I'm going to put this picture up. But these are believed to be angels.
Yeah.
And the photo was taken from a person who was flying, who's on
On
an
a plane?
airplane,
Wow.
really high up. And the whole article was based on some of the things that people see in the skies when they are traveling.
Tell you, I always say, get that window seat.
And now in the video, because there's actually a video of this was just a still from the video. You could see them like this. To me, when you look at it like this, it could just look like a couple of bugs splat on the window, but when you see the video, it's like, God, that's pretty compelling. These do look like two men with wings and swords. However, in the age of AI, I question everything. But the video is even video now can be fudged, unfortunately.
It's
But
sad.
so I saw the video and thought, that would be really, really interesting if it was a thing. But people report seeing things in the skies all the time. So you're so high up. Who knows, really? And yes, Wayne says it's Folger's time.
I know. Good thing we have him directing in the chat room, because
I know.
this is such a great conversation. Reverend, if you could call me once a week and we could Skype, I'll just listen to you talk.
You get sick of it. I get sick of myself.
That's the first time I've heard a man say that.
I know sometimes on Sundays, I even tell them when I'm doing my sermon, sometimes I'll tear it up and go, I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And they get it. But yeah. I was taught in seminary that, and I remember I grew up in a black church. You were there all day.
Oh, they were torture.
But we were taught that if you speak past 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you're repeating yourself. And people's attention spans are not that long. That's one of the reasons I like the UU church. I go 20, 25 minutes. That's it.
Nice.
We start at 11. You're out of there by 12.
My mom was a devout Catholic, and she would make my father drive us to a church, a black church, where they're singing. She loved it. And I did too. I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed it.
I love the ritual. I love the incense.
I
do.
The
smells and bells. I like that. I like churchiness.
Yeah.
I like to wear my robe and my stole. Oh yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah, she was just like, because I baptized my niece at this church, and my mother's like, look, like they took her and they brought her up and down the aisle and they were singing, and I was just like,
I love all that.
This is really good. So the week after we went, and we just kept going. But anyways, I really enjoyed that. It was a nice.
I enjoy it. I just don't like when people, I don't want to force my ideas on someone. No, I don't like that. But other than that, I love the smells and bells.
I think it's also if you're somewhat of an empath, the energy is so intoxicating in there. I think like that. But I better do this because I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, we don't. Yeah. Oh, right. We have a
patient sponsor ID. Yes.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Hey, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM radio, as well as on the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM radio. We're live on the Roku TV, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook group pages. Listen to us on Alexa Prime and approximately 250 streaming platforms. We stopped counting. Our special guest tonight is a dear friend and a returning guest. Reverend Michael J.Carter is here with us tonight. And I'm not even going to tell you the topic, because if you're just tuning in, you're going to want to go back to the archive and start from the beginning. It is a great show, as it always is. And now the time is the gratitude moment. And we have so much to be grateful for, starting with Folgers Coffee from our first episode with UPRN. And we're grateful and thankful to Joe Montaldo as well. Thank you for your continued support and sponsoring our show. We love you, and we hope this relationship lasts a long, long, long time. Our fabulous banners and promo media is courtesy of Steve McGinnis. He is a horror illustrator, an incredible artist, and Steve also creates custom commission pieces. Check him out on Facebook. Thank you, Steve. And well, you can see it in all of our promotions. He's fantastic. Our intro and outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. Stream on any platform. Find Dr. Snick on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. Lastly, I am going to scold you. Are you watching this episode right now? Where are you watching this episode? If there's a like button, a subscribe button, a notifications button, smash it and share it.
And we are back.
Yeah. Oh, I was not finished, but it's okay.
Oh, you got more? Oh,
yes.
Sorry, Steve.
I just want to say, help us grow on social media. So Michelle books all these amazing guests so we can keep bringing you the best in their fields just for you. We have a large listening audio audience, but we need some help with we know you're there because you're commenting, but please just share us and get us out there so that we can do more of this for you.
All right. And
I know it's a long one.
Back. We do, but we have a lot of people to thank. And
yes.
So we're very fortunate that we have so many sponsors, which is really nice. So
yeah. You gotta do that. You gotta give them their due.
Always.
Amelia, give me
especially these guys.
Amelia, I want to go back to something you were saying, and I know we gotta. If we weren't on the air, we could talk more about it.
Yeah.
I do think that on some level, there's a way you can still keep God in school and it doesn't have to be divisive.
Yeah.
I think you can do that. I think, though, and this is what we had talked about earlier in the show, that there are powers that be that we're just easier to govern when we're at each other's throats. And unfortunately, religion is one of those ways to do it. And maybe we can, I'm just going to leave it there because I didn't want to dismiss what you were saying. It's a delicate topic, because we can easily go into another over the line with that.
No, but, I understand what you're saying.
And so when you were saying I kind of knew what you were saying, but I think that that's one of those examples that it's easy, because if we're arguing over that, the things we argue over, race, who you sleep with, what you believe. When we argue over that, we're easier to govern because we're not unified.
Yeah. Well, I'm really good at changing the direction of the conversation. So I don't like when I get questioned like that. But let me tell you something in a positive sense.
It was food for thought.
Thank you. In a positive sense, when I was referring to it, I was referring to a public school system here, but the Catholic high school has put in prayer rooms for the Muslims to come in because there aren't enough schools. So they are making adjustments.
Yeah. Because remember, Age of Aquarius, it's about diversity and tech.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to. I was in Amsterdam about 11 days ago to visit a friend, and you can get on a train, man, and in 2 hours I could have been in Brussels.
Yeah.
Or I could
That's Europe. Yes.
And
that's great.
And I'm watching that, and of course it's lovely. I haven't been to Europe in 24 years prior to last week. But I realized that because they've seen 2 world wars, they've seen how devastating they've seen what we can do to each other. I mean, we had the Civil War here in the States, not Mickey Mouse by any stretch of the imagination, but they have to find a way to get along because they've seen what World War I and II will do. And now we have higher technology and, more potent technologies around weapons and stuff like that. So that was just something that made me think. Now, everybody doesn't get along and, people have different vibes, but they're not so quick to go to war.
No, they're more accepting.
Because they know, man, we could wipe out, we're just too close. We got to find a way to live with each other. Yeah.
I've heard the story. My uncle was he was a prisoner of war he was taken
In World War
prisoner by
II?
the Nazis. Yes. So yeah, he never talked about it. I
No,
found
it's just
out from
probably
my
traumatic.
father and my dad
Probably
didn't really say much, but my cousin told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's scary.
There's a lot of scary stuff out there. And, don't want to end the show off on scary.
No, we want
Well, we got
peace, we
time.
want
we got
happiness.
And you
time,
don't have to be afraid. Be not afraid. Be not afraid.
No.
Michael, what are your thoughts on Antarctica?
Ooh.
I don't
that
think-
was a freaking
How much
bang.
time do we have?
I don't know. You know what? I don't think about Antarctica often.
Yes.
If you're asking me, are there secrets there and secret government stuff going on there and maybe some off-world intelligence stuff going on, I would say, why not? We have stories about Admiral Byrd.
Yeah,
and
you believe that
and
story?
that kind of, oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's truth to that.
Me too.
Especially since it's kind of off the beaten path. You could do all kinds of things up there and no one would ever know.
No.
So if you're asking that, I think it's worth delving deeper into. I haven't, I've read his story and what he said he saw and that kind of thing. I think there's truth to that. I know they quickly they shut him up very quickly after he started talking about what he saw. They told him that you need to stand down with that. So that's what I think about Antarctica.
It's not far from Avatar, right?
I know they had a
film.
lot of they had scientists down there that were rounded up to be picked up, and they didn't speak the whole time when they were picked up because of what they had witnessed in there. Some of the things that they had seen, it shocked them. And when they got picked up, they were put on the plane and none of them would talk. They all sat there silently.
Do you think they were told not to speak amongst each other either?
I'm almost sure of that.
Yeah,
Without
because
a
it's
doubt.
almost like interrogating a criminal, right? You're going to
You have
separate
to
them.
be debriefed. You have to be debriefed. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the protocols.
Yeah, I call it
and if you
interrogation.
don't say anything, then no one can accuse you of anything. And people try to follow orders, and you just shut your mouth.
Especially if you're a scientist or you're in the military, you're used to some sort of non-disclosure and discipline and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would imagine they wouldn't want them talking to each other so that their story stayed their experiences, not get confused from the shock with someone else's.
There's
I
history
believe
that
that
goes back
completely.
to World War II with the Nazis having control, and there's a lot of stuff. I find it really fascinating, but I also find it fascinating that somehow when you say disclosure, it's almost like other things are coming to surface. If you think about even, how I'll just put this up.
Yeah. Buzz
Buzz-
Aldrin warned about Antarctica. Yeah.
See, even then, but you look at even the Grand Canyon. They try to put it off as a hoax because they found this large Buddha, they found these Egyptian hieroglyphs and the statues, and like, it's all a hoax. But yet NASA has taken control over the area, and anybody who tries to get near it are met by armed guards.
Who has
that?
taken
NASA.
NASA? Okay.
Yes. So,
Well, that's always the first clue, isn't it?
exactly.
I was going to say, how does
the
Elon
first
Musk have so much freedom with his whole program? Like, I mean, I follow him and I read everything he writes, and and I watch his videos, and I'm thinking, how'd you get up there?
I just love how things are being exposed on different levels, things to make us think.
Hmm. Well, again, at least from my
Yeah.
perspective, in this
Yeah.
new age that we're going into, you
Mhm.
know, all this stuff is revealed. The mysteries are revealed, and so people are ready to hear it too. I think timing has a lot to do with everything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that are going on in the UFO community, just 10 or 15 years ago wouldn't have flew.
Mm.
No.
Now they do. It's just it's timing. It's a lot of things that happen. I mean, for instance, there's rumors, not saying they're true, that there's been some type of conversation around extraterrestrials that if you don't tell people that we're here, we're going to do it.
Hmm.
Now, and I'm not contradicting what I said an hour and a half ago, because there are, just like there's senators and congressmen who don't want disclosure, there's some who do. There are ETs who don't want disclosure, there's some who do. But if that scenario is true, it would explain why all of a sudden, the same people who were telling us, I mean, there was a time when Lou Elizondo was telling us that we were wrong. Now he's got a best-selling book. So you have to go, well, what shifted here?
Mm-hmm.
Something has changed. Now, all of a sudden, you have changed everything. And I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying that.
No.
But I'm just saying, what happened in these few years that all of a sudden now you're championing this cause. And it seems like there's an urgency. Like all this stuff is going to come to a head. And I'm wondering, speculating, that maybe there's some truth to that if our government doesn't start coming cleaner sooner, then maybe these beings are going to say, well,
we'll do it.
Time's up.
Yeah.
We'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do it.
And I think after the election, because that's where everybody's energy is focused in this country on the election. I think by 2025, 26, there's going to be even more, because there are more whistleblowers coming out almost like clockwork. Hold on here. I have there's a new book coming out. I never even heard of this guy, but he just came out 2 days ago or whatever. Okay. It says this was in a Hollywood Reporter, another UFO boss to break silence in major book deal. Jay Stratton's memoir promises to reveal shocking discoveries, challenges, and breakthroughs in the government's research on UFOs/UAPs. Where are these people coming from?
Wow.
All of a sudden, they're just coming out of the woodwork now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they feel comfortable in doing it.
That's disclosure.
Yeah.
This guy used to work in the government, the DIA department, and so he's coming out. And now he's got these things, and nothing's going to happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So we're getting there. Baby steps.
Well, there's no there. There's no there. We're already in it.
Oh.
See, if you keep thinking there's a there, you're going to keep getting disappointed.
Well, I mean, I'm an experiencer, so
Right.
I could say, hey, experiencers know, contact.
Well, but you're making my point, Michelle. I don't
Yeah.
need the government to tell me that these beings exist,
Right.
because I've experienced it.
Right.
Mhm.
And so why would I wait for someone to tell me and put all my there's something I already know.
Mhm.
I don't need them to tell me that. I know, I've experienced it.
Mhm.
Now it's fun to talk about, but
Yeah.
I don't have a dog in the hunt. To be honest with you, they could tell me or not. If Lou Elizondo didn't write his book, if David Grush didn't come out with these hearings, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
I know what happened to me,
Mhm.
and I know how my life has changed from it.
Yeah.
I don't need them to validate me.
No, it's the same with paranormal experiences.
I don't need that.
Yeah. You know that you've seen this spirit. You know that you've had this
Yeah, I don't
conversation
need
with them.
David Grush to tell me that what I saw was
Mhm.
real.
Mm-hmm.
But if I did, I'd be disappointed because I'm seeking someone else to validate me, and I don't need that. I don't need that.
I think if
like that.
anything, what it would do is it will bring those who are a little bit skittish about coming forward. It's almost like sometimes people do feel like they need that authority to say, yes, it's here. And then they can just come out and talk about it. They don't want to feel foolish. Maybe they're just scared. Maybe they don't understand it. Maybe they're not educated in it. Whatever the case may be, wherever it is that drives that fear or being leery of talking about. Like I grew up, my parents just in paranormal. You don't want to, that's a family secret. You don't want to go telling all the neighbors. They'll think we're crazy. We are. We have great things going on in this house.
Yeah.
Right. But I think people can accept ghosts. People can accept the paranormal. It's just mainstream. It's just a little easier to take in because a lot of people have had visitations, or a lot of people, I remember reading a survey and they said, I think it was something like 70% of, like, this was an American survey, could say definitively that they've had some kind of paranormal experience. That's pretty good odds of people coming forward and even wanting to talk about it. But throw aliens in. Like I had a neighbor, she says, okay, ghosts are one thing. Aliens, no, it's not for me. Thank you. But she's very, very religious as well. So for her, that was completely off limits.
No, I hear you. And I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that the giggle factor hasn't gone down now. It's also the luxury of saying, see, I was right. I mean, the ego gets involved. See, I was right. I get that. And I've benefited from that. But I know people who still don't even know that the government, their own government, has been spending tax dollars, and it's just not even on their radar. It's just something they want to do. But what I will say is that, like you probably, I was talking about this 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And the government wasn't half as transparent as it is now. I'm not saying that it doesn't kind of give you an affirmation, but I'm just saying on a spiritual level, I don't need the validation from my government because I know what happened. So therefore, I don't go on the roller coaster when you're not doing it fast enough or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You don't have to ever do it because there are people who will, I've had people come to me like you. And so, I can affirm them and they listen. And I mean, I listen to them and they get affirmation. That's all I'm simply saying. I'm just saying that because you go with the roller coaster when you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to say what happened to you was true. And that's just something I don't want to do.
I think, when it becomes a common day thing, an everyday thing, it becomes just part of our culture as a whole. I think, do you think it's just going to sort of elevate us a little bit with respect to open-mindedness, spirituality?
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah. I think so too.
But I think it will, but I don't know if it will if the powers that be are in control of the narrative. Shows like yours will probably do more than the government coming out and saying, guess what, we've been spending money. Because they're focusing on technology. They're focusing on the hardware. Shows like this are focusing on the inner. And that's what this is about. This is not about back engineering.
No.
It's lovely, but that's not what this is about.
About the people. It's about the people, the experience.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And that's what maybe I wasn't articulating it. Because they're going to control they're not going to talk about religion until they have to. I'm saying we need to be talking about religion and spirituality now in conjunction with ETs, Sasquatch, paranormal, poltergeist, whatever you want to
The whole gambit.
Yeah. We need to be talking about that now, not when Not when Washington decides they're going to have hearings.
Mhm.
That's what I mean.
We want to hear about everybody's stories. We want to hear about their sightings or experiences, because that's
how
to
the
me
world changes.
That is disclosure.
A little bit at a time. Yeah, that's
exactly.
what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, now I know they're not going to be talking about what we're talking about until way after the election. So what am I going to do? I'm going to be waiting and panting. Oh, come on, guys, give us some new information. No, you do what you got to do. I'm going to be doing what I got to do, which is coming on shows like yours, which was speaking, which is writing, which is getting the word out there about love, about how we can shift our consciousness, about that some of these beings are benevolent, some of them aren't, some of them are neutral. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Pick up a book, pick up your Bible. That's what I'm about. Because I can't wait for them to say, you know what, Michael, you were right the whole time. You were right, and the religions were right. And no, I don't have time for that. I'll be dead in 30 years, maybe sooner. I'm 67. I'm 67 years old.
You're going to be around for 30 years at least.
I need to do what I need to do now.
Yes. Well, we love having you on, Michael.
I love being on.
So
we love you.
We're almost at the top of the hour. Tell us what you have going on. Promote yourself. Where can people come and find you?
Okay, let me do that. Okay, you can go to Amazon and you can pick up my books. I forgot to tell you I have a new book. Well, the book of sermons, yeah. So I forgot to write it in my bio
the
for
archives
you.
Guy.
That's out. Yeah, that's out. And next Thursday I go to Lake Houghton, Michigan, for the third time in 3 years to give a talk for their UFO conference. Wonderful speakers there. I'm speaking on disclosure and ancient texts. I did an episode of thank you, Brother Anderson. I did a but they cut me out of. I did a new Ancient Aliens, and it came on last week. And when I went to watch it, they cut me out. So
they left you
on.
It
was called The Chosen. It was called The Chosen. But there's a new one coming up, called The Teach. Hopefully, they didn't cut me out of that. And just go to Amazon, email me. I know we're running out of time. Michael JS.Carter at gmail.com. I will write you back. Don't worry about that. My fan page is Reverend Michael J. Carter on Facebook. And my God, I don't know when I'm going to see you guys again, you ladies again, but I'm wishing everybody happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's true. It'll be after that. We're booking.
We've got that in a few weeks.
Well, we actually have, we might actually have some, what might actually be nice is because, around December and Christmas time, having like a more enlightening life after life sort of conversation for people who are just feeling really low. Why don't you give that some thought and I'll email you?
I've already given it thought and we can do it.
Okay.
Because, but also too, because and I don't want to, I'll get revved up. It's a depressing time. A lot of people they're so low around the holiday.
Yes.
And it can be
a
rough.
lighthearted, fun show about just, spiritual stuff and loss and the joy and life after life.
The joy and don't give up.
Okay, we're going to do it.
We changed the whole theme in December on the show just to help. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it.
Because it's the season of lights.
It is.
And we'll talk about it. It's always a pleasure.
Favorite time of year.
Do something with that. Amelia, do something about those migraines.
Thank you.
I don't know what to tell you. I could send you some Reiki.
Oh, thank you. I have a friend. My daughter's friend does it. I'm
okay.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's been a long time, but I know how to get through them. I get sad when I miss shows because, I feel like I miss you too. Right?
I missed you I think it was the last 2 times.
Yeah, I missed
you. If you change your mind about the Reiki, let me know because
I'm always open to it.
Mine's a little different because of those people.
No, thank you.
I will be in touch with you and we'll set up a time. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure.
Be safe out.
Go get some sleep.
Out there. Be not afraid.
Thank
y'all.
you. All right. Thank you. Good night, darling. Always such a joy.
Oh,
Such
I
a
know.
joy. Well, guys, we're literally there at the top of the hour, and what a great laid back segment. I think you'd be the perfect person to join us for a segment in December, and you can look for him at that point. So big thank you to Michael Carter for joining us and participating in an open discussion about current things that are going on in the world of UFOs and disclosure, so on and so forth. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee, Justice Snickers, Steve McGinnis. Thank you. Next Wednesday night is actually our official open mic, open discussion night, current events, high stranges, anything goes. So get
And
your
the
questions in
giveaway.
order, get your topics in order, meet us in any of our designated chat rooms, and let's just have a parlay and bounce some ideas around. Let's have some fun. Remember, we used to do these only quarterly, and you guys ask for it every month. Heck, we've had people ask for it every week. We can't do that.
Can't do
So,
that.
so we can't do that. But
You
hey,
get tired of listening to us. Yeah.
Thursday night, big treat. We've slowly been bringing people back from really early days of the Outer Realm because our audience has grown into the millions, literally. And boy, it's been a real journey. We're so humbled, but we are bringing back this time our dear friend Laura DiDio. Now, who she is, if you guys remember the old Amityville horror days, she was the reporter that George Lutz contacted and brought her in. She was instrumental. She was at the seance that happened with Hans Holder and the Warrens. She had a key to the house. She had experiences. She'd been in there after the fact when the place was empty. She was in contact with people who lived in afterwards. She knew Ronald DeFeo. She knew she still is in touch with the Lutz boys. She's just an amazing human. I just love her. So we decided we would bring her back and let her just retell everything for all of our new listeners and viewers. So we really hope that you will enjoy that segment that is going to be next Thursday night. So we will leave you guys with that, and we will bid you good night. Have a terrific weekend, and we'll see you next week. Night, night.